EWTN. This is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-833-288-EWTN. That's 1-833-288-3986. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also text the letters EWTN to 55000 or send an email to openline@EWTN.com.
Hey, tremendous Monday to each and every one of you. Welcome back to EWTN's Open Line. We've got a very special treat for you. Those of you who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook Live have already been clued in, but the rest of you will be clued in a moment. If you'd like to be part of the program, the number is 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985, and you can always put Monday or super terrific surprise guest host or something like that in the subject line, and it'll get to the appropriate folder. You can text your question. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Text your first name and your question message, and data rates may apply. I'm Jack Williams. Michael McCall producing the program. Your call screener is Matt Gubensky and Jeff Burson handling our social media efforts. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, you can type a question into the chat window, and it may find its way to us by the end of the hour. And Father John Trigilio had a faculty meeting at the Mount today, and we have this hot off the presses new tome from the most successful author in this room. And so we thought it would be a great time from EWTN Publishing to have the author of Blue Collar Apologetics back in the studio, Mr. John Martignoni. How are you?
I'm doing all right, Jack. And it's weird, you know. It's kind of like one of those deja vu. It feels like I've been here before.
It's deja vu all over again.
Yes.
I'm holding up, for those of you watching, a copy of Blue Collar Apologetics, and you've been threatening to write this book for a long time.
For several years now. And people have been threatening me to write the book.
So talk a little bit about, we'll take just this first segment to kind of get people acquainted. You know, this is the whole story is, and why would you expect anything different from an outfit that Mother Angelica started? But this whole thing was pretty unlikely. You know, a much younger and much hairier version of you, you know, was bumping around, enjoying the you know, all that life has to offer, you know, apart from the spiritual life for sure, and
right.
You know, working your way towards being a finance mogul. And boy, if somebody would have told you then that, you know, you would be writing a book on apologetics published by an outfit started by a cloistered nun, you probably would have choked on your cappuccino.
Yeah, I probably would have thought, you know, let's call the white coats for this guy. You know, bring him in, because there's no way this is happening.
So just a reminder, John is from Huntsville, Alabama, has spent a good deal of time here in Birmingham, Alabama, went to school in Tuscaloosa, Roll Tide, although it was kind of a crawl tide Saturday.
It's still a roll tide.
That's right. You know, was raised Catholic, but as many of us have done, sort of strolled away from his faith a little bit. But when you were working in the banking industry, you were out in your car during one lunch hour, and while you may not have been clinging tightly to your Catholic faith, I think you probably, you know, still knew in your heart of the truth of it to a certain degree. And there was somebody on the radio who didn't know that. And they were letting everybody know that they didn't know that.
Yeah, well, and actually I had just come back to the Catholic faith within the last couple years or so, but really didn't know my faith that well. Was still what you would call probably like a cafeteria Catholic. And somebody's on there attacking the Catholic faith, and I called the radio station and said, hey, you need to let somebody, a Catholic, come on to respond to that. And I had no inkling or intention that someone would be me. But as it often happens, if you're the one to suggest something, you're the one who gets tasked to follow through on that. So it worked out one way or another. It worked out, and I went on the their live afternoon show they had Monday through Friday at the time, and Catholic on Protestant radio, evangelical radio, and I thought, okay, that's it. They'll stop putting those anti-Catholic programs on because they know I'm out there listening now, and I'm going to call in. Well, the very next day they had a program called Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary. You know? and so I thought, oh, man, that was... But then somebody called me, a Catholic, said, John, if you'll do what you did yesterday on the radio, he said, I will pay for the airtime to do that. And I was like, you know, at first I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But then I thought, no, I don't know enough about my faith to do this. And I told him, I said, no, I said, I'm not going to do that. He said, well, pray about it. I said, no, this is so ridiculous, I'm not even going to pray about it. I said, if God wants it to happen, he's going to have to make it happen. Well, over the next several months, God made it happen. And I wound up with a 1-hour live Catholic apologetics program on the largest evangelical radio station in the state of Alabama every Sunday evening. And the Bible Christian Society was launched.
Yeah, and it was really launched in name a little before that because it was kind of a vehicle to get your letter read, wasn't it?
Right. I wrote them a letter, the radio station, to complain, and I signed my name to it. And I thought, you know, they don't care who John Martignoni is. So, you know, these Bible Christians, they don't care who John Martignoni is. So I thought, Bible Christian. I said, you know, I know what I'll do. And so I made up this organization, the Bible Christian Society, and I made myself the president. So I signed it, John Martignoni, president of the Bible Christian Society. And you know, as we just mentioned, that led to my getting a program eventually on that same station once a week for a whole year.
And you even told them, altered the text of your letter to tell them that we at the Bible Christian Society.
No, 2 weeks later, after not hearing from them, and I'd been telling people what I had done because I was thinking I was kind of clever, so I'm patting myself on the back, and I'd tell everybody, oh, so I made up this Bible Christian Society, and people were going, well, we want to join. Like, join what? The Bible Christian. I said it doesn't exist. So what I started doing, I started writing down names. I had 10, 20 names written down of people. So then next letter I wrote them, I said, we in the Bible Christian Society. So I wasn't making anything up.
Yeah, very good. 833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number. If you'd like to talk to John Martignoni, the number is 833-288-3986. So you've got the ball rolling down the path. Did you have any idea what apologetics was when you...
Well, I did because I had been starting to listen to Scott Hahn.
There you go.
And what started this whole thing, my whole true reversion to the faith, was getting a hold of his conversion story. And that just kind of lit the fire. And so I started listening to all the Scott Hahn stuff I could get hold of. And then I got connected with Catholic Answers, so I started listening to Carl Keating stuff. And then I heard about this Tim Staples guy and all these other folks. And then started getting apologetics books, from the 20s, the 30s. I got hooked up with a Roman Catholic bookseller. I think that was their name, Roman Catholic bookseller. And they had all these books from 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. And so I'd start getting apologetics books. And so I really, through apologetics, started learning my faith for the first time.
And apologetics is not a new idea. Every ecumenical council in the history of the church has been called because of it. But you took a little bit different slant to it because of where you grew up and where you lived. The Bible, the Protestant Bible, was a very important pillar of the faith, in some cases the only pillar of the faith for the overwhelming majority of people down here. So you made it your business to be able to teach the Catholic faith from that Catholic book, the Bible.
Absolutely, and that's when I was growing up, or actually when I first came back into the faith, and I started talking to people where I was working at the banks, and the Bible's a Protestant book. That was the impression I had. Bible's a Protestant book. Yeah, we Catholics use it, but the Protestants, they really know the Bible. And as I started talking to Protestants and getting into the Bible, I was like, well, no, wait a minute. This is a Catholic book. And I started, then I researched, well, where did the Bible come from? Oh, no, this is definitely a Catholic book. But you're right. It's because of the environment in which I live, all the questions I was getting about the Catholic faith started with where in the Bible is, where in the Bible is this, where in the Bible is that, infant baptism, confession of sin, Mary's Immaculate Conception, etc. So I started learning how to answer Protestant questions using the Bible, and then a little old common sense and simple logic.
We're talking with John Martignoni, making a guest return, a triumphant return to EWTN's Open Line Monday, talking about his brand new book, Blue Collar Apologetics. It's available at EWTN's religious catalog, and we're having a little trouble with our website, so I don't know if they can log on to EWTNRC.com or not, but I'll get you the number to call to order the book as we go along here in the hour. It's EWTN's Open Line Monday with the return of John Martignoni.
Smart speakers help with a lot these days. Did you know you can use your smart speaker to hear the top stories of the day from a Catholic perspective?
On Google Home, all you have to do is walk up to your speaker and say, "Hey Google, play Catholic News."
Here's the latest news.
Welcome to your daily Catholic news briefing.
For more information on how to get the latest Catholic news on your smart speaker or wherever you get your podcasts, go to CatholicNewsAgency.com/smart speakers.
60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope.
The eighth commandment. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. At one level, the reputation a person has is one of their most precious gifts, and to intentionally harm the good reputation of someone is a very grave matter. We can do this often through detraction by disclosing others' faults without a valid reason, or calumny, just outright lying about other people. Likewise, through rash judgment. This commandment also protects the truth, which is another very, very great good. To lie is to speak something that we know is false with the intention of deceiving others. We ought to be dedicated to the truth. It is the truth that sets people free, while errors and lies entrap people in many difficult and often sinful situations. The Lord asks us to give witness to the truth of the gospel. This commandment therefore asks us to stay dedicated to the truth and to other people's reputation. The eighth commandment, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor.
For more about the 10 Commandments, visit EWTNRC.com.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question, call 1-833-288-EWTN. That's 1-833-288-3986. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. Or send us an email to openline@EWTN.com.
Couple of open phone lines and plenty of time for your calls at 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Father John Trigilio has a faculty meeting today. So with the newly released Blue Collar Apologetics by our old friend John Martignoni, we thought what a great thing to do, but to have him back in his old seat here on Open Line Monday. And you can get that book by calling 800-854-6316. That's 1-800-854-6316. First up today is Mark driving through the great state of Washington on I-90, listening to Sacred Heart Radio. Mark, thanks for holding. You're on with John Martignoni.
Hi, John.
Hey, Mark, how you doing today?
Oh, pretty good. We finally got out of the heat and we got some fall weather.
Good thing.
What I'm calling about is I've asked a number of priests and people that I thought would know. I've done a lot of YouTube stuff, and I can't find the answer. In both creeds, it says he was crucified, died, and was buried. On the third day, he rose again from the dead. What does again refer to?
Well, essentially, resurrection, the word resurrection means rise again. Okay? So it's basically the literal definition of being resurrected. So when you say he was resurrected, you say he rose again. Now, you put whether that's in the creed or anywhere else, the resurrection literally means to rise again, rise up again. You were alive, you're dead, you're alive again.
Just like every morning when you wake up, you rise.
Exactly. You rise again. You know, you could say you're resurrected from sleep every morning. So you rise again every morning. So that's what it is. There's no hidden theological meaning, and you're not the first person to wonder about this. So there's no hidden theological meaning. It doesn't point to some other deeper theology or corollary or anything like that. All it is essentially the literal meaning of the word resurrected. Does that make sense?
How's that for a wet blanket of an answer, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, darn it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the phone call. 833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number, 833-288-3986. So you have formed the Bible Christian Society, and unbeknownst to you, you found out people wanted to join it.
Yeah.
You had this radio program on Sunday nights, and it was just kind of off and running at that point?
It was. What happened was when I got on the radio, all of a sudden Catholics started calling saying, hey, can you come give a talk at our meeting, Knights of Columbus or Sarah Club or whatever it might be. And then at one point, after the year was over, someone said, can you come speak at our parish? And it was our Lady of Sorrows parish here locally. And I did 4 Wednesday nights in a row where I did one talk each Wednesday night. And my wife, Janelle, had worked at EWTN, and the prayer group I was in had a lot of people in at EWTN. So I knew a bunch of folks here. So I knew Tom Price, and I knew he worked radio. I said, Tom, could you come and record these talks just in case somebody might want to get a copy of it? He said, sure. So he came and recorded the talks. And a few weeks later, he called me. He was editing the talks. He said, these are not bad. He said, do you mind if I air them on EWTN radio? This was 1999. And I thought EWTN radio was just shortwave. I had no clue that they had started this AM/FM affiliate program. And I think maybe at the time there were 9, 10, 11 of them. And I said, sure, go ahead. I just thought, well, people in other parts of the world will hear it on shortwave. Well, he said it'll take a few months to air. Well, in January of 2000, I come home from Mass one Sunday, and unbeknownst to me, he had aired the first of the talks, and I had like 17 messages on my answering machine. I mean, I left for Mass at 9. I got home at 11:30. I was like, what's going on? And I start listening. Hey, I want to get a copy of that talk. Hey, I heard that talk on it. I was like, oh, my goodness, because I'd forgotten all about it. And so a tape ministry was born. So I had to start making copies of it. The time cassette tapes, send them out and send the cassette tapes out. And then he aired the next talk the next Sunday and the next one and repeated the whole process. And then after I'd send the tapes out, then a few weeks, maybe a couple months later, people would call, can you come talk to our parish? I was like, yeah, sure, be happy to. Where are you? Kalamazoo, Michigan. What? Reno, Nevada. What? So all of a sudden, an apologetics apostolate is born, and yeah, it just took off from there. It was crazy.
And I'm assuming that from that initial offering, as you go out and talk to people and they ask you questions, it becomes pretty apparent to you the subjects that most people are wrestling with. And if you hadn't addressed a subject in a talk, you just made up a new talk, huh?
I did, exactly. That's all of these talks are born out of my personal experiences, either people asking me the questions or just like what you said, people coming up to me and saying, how do you respond to this? For example, the rapture talk. I had never really had anybody talk to me about the rapture and are you going to be raptured and all this stuff. But I had Catholics coming up to me because this was about the time that those Left Behind books and movies were coming out. They were saying, how do you respond to this? So I did a rapture talk and recorded that. And then people started to, we went from cassette tapes to CDs and now MP3 downloads. And everything I did, I gave out for free. And we've shipped... Oh, my goodness. We probably shipped about several 100,000 cassette tapes and CDs and then several hundred more thousand MP3 downloads. So I'm thinking we're probably around 2 million talks distributed now after all these years. It's just, like I said, it's been crazy.
Next up is Christine. She's in Chicago, Illinois, listening to WSFI. Christine, you're on with John Martignoni.
Yes, I would like to say that let's not badmouth the Protestants so much like we do. Let's stop all this. During the Catholic charismatic days, that I used to go to these prayer meetings, and one of the priests said that the Protestant church, when they were founded, they were just trying mainly to go back to the way it was in the very early days of the church when it was less formal. But I'll tell you, the one thing that I do disagree on with them is that, and this is going out too, by the way, they were trying to say that Mother Mary had other children, but that's going out with those that I've known and those that I had dealings with. Now, some of us say we don't know, but that you can tell it's fizzling out. And many of them do believe in the true virginity, the perpetual virginity of Mary.
Well, let me ask you a question, Christine. Does truth matter to you?
Definitely.
Okay, so I'm not bashing Protestants. I've got Protestant friends, Baptist, evangelical, etc. But what I am taking issue with are the doctrines and dogmas, some of their doctrines and dogmas, the ones that differ from the Catholic Church's doctrines and dogmas, that they're teaching people because they are not true. And, once saved, always saved, that works play no role whatsoever in our salvation, that you don't need to be baptized in order to be saved. And there are still, contrary to what you were saying, I still come across every single day pretty much Protestants who hit up me and other Catholics about Mary and all of her children, that, Mark 6:3, James and Joseph, Judas and Simon, and Jesus' sisters as well, his brothers and sisters. So I don't think that's fizzling out at all, and that's coming from somebody who is in the thick of it. I'm talking to Protestants almost, not quite every day, but every week. And so it's not bashing Protestants, it's taking issue with doctrine and dogmas that we as Catholics believe are false. And so if we don't take up these issues, if we allow, let's say, evangelicals or Baptists, whoever, to pull Catholics out of the faith because they're saying, that bread and wine you worship as God, it's just bread and wine. It's not really the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. Well, when I argue with them, and argue, I say, in the classical sense of the word, not yelling and screaming, but I'm trying to convince you, you're trying to convince me. When I argue, discuss, debate with Protestants, it's not bashing Protestants. It's taking issue with the doctrines and dogmas of Protestantism that are false. And regarding what the priest said about Protestants wanting to go back to the beginning, well, that was Martin Luther's excuse for rejecting papal authority. It was his excuse for coming up with new dogmas. He was saying, well, sola scriptura, sola fide. The church never had those. So, Lutherans pretty much kept the Mass for the most part, at least in Martin Luther's time. So it was not simplifying anything. It was a rejection of authority. That was just an excuse. Oh, we just want to simplify it and go back to the way it was in the beginning. No, you're making an excuse because you don't want to live under the Pope's authority, and you don't want to believe in purgatory, and you want to believe in this dogma you've made up called sola fide, salvation by faith alone. So that was all merely an excuse of Martin Luther's and nothing else. So again, to disagree with someone's teachings is not bashing anybody. It's just what you do when you disagree with someone. And particularly in an issue as important as theology, as the faith, as the teachings of the true Church of Jesus Christ, where souls could literally be on the line.
And you really, quite frankly, take the rank and file Catholic who doesn't know their faith to task probably far more often than you do our evangelical brothers and sisters.
I tell people, I said, the people I have the most trouble convincing of any particular Catholic teaching are not Protestants. They're Catholics. People who call themselves Catholics, go to Mass usually every Sunday or at least once a month. And but more often every Sunday, and they're saying, well, no, that's not what Catholics believe, John. I was like, okay, let's go to the catechism, and then here it is in the Bible, and well, I don't have to confess my sins to a priest. That's not, no, here, and I mean, again, these are Catholics saying these things. So, yes, I have to correct Catholics as much, if not more, on the true teachings of Jesus and his church than I do Protestants.
God bless you, Christine. We appreciate the phone call. 833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number. It's a free phone call anywhere in North America. 833-288-3986. Straight ahead, we'll talk to Herman in Louisville, Kentucky, and hopefully we'll talk to you as well. 833-288-EWTN. The triumphant return of John Martignoni to EWTN's Open Line Monday.
For Register Radio, I'm Matthew Bunson.
This is Montse Alvarado from EWTN News In Depth.
Hi, I'm Brian Patrick with the Catholic Sphere.
Get trusted Catholic news every day on EWTN television and radio.
Parents, when your kids seem really uncorrectable, it's not always coming from a place of belligerence. Sometimes it's coming from self-loathing, which studies show is more common among kids than ever before. And if that's their headspace, they're not fighting you. They're fighting the notion that they stink, and that this mess up is just another proof of how messed up they are. With that in mind, one of my kids messed up really bad the other day, and instead of pointing out to her what she had done wrong, I decided to point out first how much I loved her, how much God loves her. I caught her off guard when I said, "You're good, you know. You're lovable. There's nothing wrong with you. You're gonna be okay." I was amazed at how her guard went down and how easy it was to correct her behavior after that. Don't get me wrong, you need to set boundaries, but you might want to attack them with love first, and then correct them. You'll be amazed at how differently that can pan out sometimes. This is Chris Stefanik from reallifecatholic.com.
Here's today's quote from Mother Angelica's perpetual calendar. If you're going to be holy, for God's sake, aim for the top. I wouldn't aim to get in the gate. Your faults and weaknesses and sins have absolutely nothing to do with achieving holiness. Many a great sinner became holy. Sometimes it's the goody-goody types that have a harder time because they can be complacent. They lack the trust of a sinner, the energy to repair their ways and push ahead in the spiritual life. Mother's perpetual calendar is available at EWTNRC.com.
Tomorrow on More to Life, Negativity Train.
Stuck in negative thinking? We'll help set your mind on a more helpful track.
That's tomorrow on More to Life. Now, back to Open Line.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
A couple of open lines for you at 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Next up is Herman. He is in Louisville, Kentucky, listening on Holy Family Radio. Herman, thanks so much for holding. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
What's up, Herman?
Well, I have a few friends and relatives that are die-hard atheists. And I would like to know with John how he would approach somebody like that. You know, you tell them about the Bible and the scriptures and all that. They don't believe that. Well, who told you that? Where'd you get that? You know, I'd like to know what he would answer or talk to somebody about that, how he would start out.
Okay, here's the thing. And I'm reading what our call screener wrote. It says you must have said to them that, what do you say to an atheist who says Catholicism requires 99% faith, not facts? I would start there and say, well, atheism requires 100% faith, not facts. So I've got you beat, okay? So here's what I would say. Well, number one, I would say get my book, because the whole last chapter is on atheism, and it's a common sense approach to atheism. The book is Blue Collar Apologetics. But ask an atheist. Tell them, say, I've heard atheists believe in the poof theory of life. And I go, what are you talking about? Well, you know, that the universe just all of a sudden, poof, came into being from nothing. Said, why do you believe that? Do you believe that because science has shown you that, or on faith? Well, there's no science that shows the universe, poof, came into existence from nothing. It's never been repeated in an experiment. It's never been observed by any living human being that something can just poof, come into being from nothing. So they believe that. They believe the universe came to be from nothing simply by faith, that it just poof, popped into existence. Then life just, poof, came into existence from non-life. Something non-living, poof, became living. Ask them if that's ever been seen in a laboratory experiment. If it's ever been seen, observed in nature, that something non-living all of a sudden became living. Never's been observed, never been, they've tried for decades. They've had experiments going on trying to get life to come from non-life. Has never, ever happened. So they believe that happened by faith. Okay? And then this living thing that came into being, well, poof, it just decided to divide. And poof, that one decided to divide. And poof, more of them decided. And cell membranes were formed. Poof, just, poof, poof, poof. All these poof things that with the creation of the universe, creation of life, the, life dividing and multiplying, all happened by faith. There is no scientific evidence in terms of experimentation or observation of something coming into being from nothing and for life coming into being from non-life. And then, this one cell that popped into existence from non-life, well, guess what? Somewhere down the line, that cell combined with another cell, according to atheist theory, and, poof, a two-celled organism. And then more cells combine, and poof, poof, you had 4 cells and 8-cell organisms. And that's how we got, more complex organisms, because these cells just decided to join together, and then the cells started to, some cells started to be, function in this way, and other cells started to specialize in this function, and other cells specialize in. Ask anybody, any atheist, show me in the laboratory or where you or anyone has seen that new organisms were formed by 2 cells just all of a sudden joining together, and each cell starting to specialize and a new organisms form. So, in other words, faith is all the atheists have. Whereas I, as a Catholic, hey, I've got, look at the trees, look at the grass. You got a leaf on a tree. It takes sunlight and it turns it into food. How incredible is that? In other words, it was apparently that there was some sort of thought that went into the creation of a tree, and that there's some purpose for this leaf and chlorophyll and all of these things. Well, how do you get purpose in a tree if there is no God? If everything is random, if the universe is completely random, how do you have purpose in life? You don't. So I would tell the atheists, if you think I have 99% faith as a Catholic, well, you have 100% faith as an atheist. Does that help you out? Give you some place to start?
Oh, yeah, John, I appreciate it. I think I better let you go because I could talk on this subject all day. You don't have time.
I could too, Herman, but let me reemphasize. I've got a whole chapter, literally in my book, that on this, and it's common sense approaches to talking to atheists that I think you might enjoy.
833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number, 833-288-3986. We got a text from Joey John, and this is one of my favorites. He says, how do I respond to a once saved, always saved response of, then he wasn't really saved?
Yeah, okay. So what Joey John is talking about here is you tell somebody, hey, is this person saved? And they'll say, yeah, he's pastor of a church and all this, and he's been bringing people to Christ for 20 years. And then all of a sudden, let's say the pastor dies, and at his funeral, well, 2 families show up. Oh, it turns out pastor had 2 wives, 2 separate families in 2 separate cities, and all this stuff. And so, in other words, he was one big sinner. Surprise, surprise. So, but you said he was saved, so it doesn't matter if he committed adultery and bigamy and all these things and whatever other sins he might have been guilty of. Doesn't matter. Oh, well, what that means is he wasn't really saved, because, if he was really saved, he wouldn't have done all these things. Here's what you do. Number 1, you ask the people, first and foremost, where in the Bible does it say what you're saying? That somebody can appear to be saved, and everybody can think they're saved, including that person, for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and that person turns out to not really be saved. Where does the Bible say that? It doesn't, okay? What the Bible says is, if you read, Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, sin gets you tossed into hell. Why does Jesus tell people, hey, better for you to pluck out an eye or cut off a hand to avoid sinning so that your body will go into heaven without an eye or a hand versus your whole body going into hell? Why does he say it? Well, he's got to be talking to people who are saved or about people who are saved, because only people who are saved, people who have faith, get into heaven, right? So why is he telling these people it's better for you to cut off your hand or pull out an eye to avoid sinning? Because sinning will result in them getting tossed into hell. So once saved, always saved in the Sermon on the Mount does not exist. It just doesn't exist. Here's the other thing. Ask the person who's saying these things, ask them, say, so you believe there are people who could think they're saved, but not really be saved? And they'll say, yes, absolutely. So you look them straight in the eye and you go, are you saved? And they'll say, oh, absolutely. Say, well, wouldn't someone who thinks they're saved but really aren't saved say the same thing? Well, yeah, I guess so. So how do you know you're saved? Well, I know in my heart. Well, wouldn't somebody who thinks they're saved and not really be saved say the same thing? And you can I've gone 3 or 4 iterations like that with people before they finally wake up and realize, wait a minute. If I allow for the possibility that there are people out there who think they're saved but really aren't, then there can be no such thing as assurance of salvation. Because then everybody who thinks they're saved, could really not be saved. So it utterly destroys this once saved, always saved concept.
If you don't believe me, will you believe St. Paul?
Yeah. St. Paul,
What do you
St.
think he meant by the end?
Yeah, persevere to the end,
Well, next up is Debbie. She is in San Diego, California, listening on St. John Paul II Catholic Radio. Debbie, you're on with John Martignoni.
Hi, John.
Hey, Debbie.
I had a quick question about confirmation programs. I have twins that are going into 9th grade right now, and they need to go through the confirmation program. And I know there's a lot of different programs out there as far as Dynamic Catholic and Life Teen. Do you have a recommendation of one of these programs that would bring in a lot of apologetics and really uplift our faith?
Well, I don't, and I've seen those confirmation programs that you mentioned, and others. I know from Formed they have the Symbolon. From the group out in Denver, Symbolon, which is a good program for confirmation. It's a good program for just being educated in your Catholic faith, period. But I don't know of any confirmation program that I would say is apologetics oriented. I've started teaching an RCIA at a local parish here in the diocese, And the RCIA program is going to be, it's going to be apologetics oriented, because it helps people learn the faith, but then it also helps them learn how to respond to arguments against the faith, which further strengthens the fact of what they've just learned about the faith. And I've tried to talk to people about having a confirmation program and getting apologetics into the local Catholic schools from first grade through high school, but not really successful just yet. Hope, there's still hope. But so I can't say I know of a confirmation program that is truly apologetics oriented. I'd say if there's somebody out there listening right now that knows of one, give us a call. But what I'm going to, and I know this is going to sound self-serving, but I'm going to tell you to get my book, because I've had moms who their 9-year-olds have used my material to evangelize their 9-year-old friends. But I've had great grandmas use it, and everybody in between. I just got an email a couple weeks ago from a chemistry professor at a university in Washington who's just going like, I've never seen stuff like this before, and it's all so basic and simple. So, I'd say get the book, and there are questions at the end of each chapter of the book that are real-life examples of questions about that particular topic, whether it's confession, the Eucharist, the Pope, Mary, sola scriptura, sola fide, the rapture, etc., that you could go through with your boys, I think you said boys, that would help them better understand what they're hopefully learning in their confirmation programs, and it would be a good introduction to them, for them, to apologetics. So Blue Collar Apologetics, again, you can get it from EWTN, and I would recommend that, sans the fact that I don't know of a particular confirmation program that is apologetics oriented.
Thanks so much, Debbie. We appreciate the phone call. That number again is 800-854-6316 to order a copy of Blue Collar Apologetics from EWTN's religious catalog. 800-854-6316. Next up is Ray, a first-time caller in the great state of Maryland, listening on Sirius XM Channel 130. Ray, you are on with John Martignoni.
Hello, John. How are you today?
Doing all right, Ray. How about yourself?
I cannot complain. So my question has to do with, I had a friend, and I know he's a Catholic, and I asked him if he was going to church. He said, no, I stopped going to church. And I said, well, what's the problem? And he said, well, I have a problem with the fact that if I were to die with a mortal sin, then I would just go to hell. He said, so I could live my life and be almost a saint and then make one mistake and then get hit by a bus, and that would be the end. And I didn't really have an answer for him of what to say, because I thought, well, is that true or is that not true? I didn't even know the answer to that. And even today I think the truth is that God will keep you from having that situation happen if you're following him, but I don't know what the real answer is. So I was hoping you could help me out. Okay.
Well, number one, leaving the faith and rejecting the faith is committing a mortal sin, and so that's there. So if it's true, it's true, and him leaving the faith doesn't make it any less true. So that's the first thing to consider. Number two is essentially he's right in the fact that if you die in a state of mortal sin, the church teaches you are ending up in hell. But what's going on with a state of mortal sin? It's not just, hey, I committed a sin and oh golly, and then I got hit by a bus and I'm headed to hell. It's you have to talk to your friend about, well, what is a mortal sin? A mortal sin is a sin that is grave matter, something serious, adultery, fornication, stealing $1,000 from your employer or something, grave matter. It's something you do with full knowledge that what you're doing is wrong, and you do it with the complete freedom of your will. In other words, no one's forcing you to do it, or you're not acting on bad information when you do it or anything like that. So it's grave matter, full knowledge, and full consent of the will. And what is a mortal sin? A mortal sin is essentially a rejection of Jesus Christ. So put it to him in those terms. Say, when you commit a mortal sin, what you are doing is you are rejecting Jesus Christ at that moment. Okay? Because Jesus is the one who has laid down all the spiritual laws, the moral laws. It's by his authority that the church is teaching what it teaches. So ask him, say, if you die, and the last thing you've done before you die is reject Jesus Christ, do you really expect that you would go to heaven? So put it in that kind of language and see if you can make it. It's not just, oh, I sinned, so I'm going to hell. It's a deliberate, serious sin, rejecting Jesus Christ. And ask him in those terms and see what he says. And tell him, say, and let's say you commit this mortal sin and you say, oh, God, I'm sorry. I've sinned. I've done wrong. I repent. And I'm heading to confession. And when I'm heading to confession, then I get hit by the bus. Or a tractor-trailer rig crosses the interstate and hits my car head on, and I die, so I don't get to confession. Am I automatically going to hell because I didn't make it to confession? And the answer is no. God knows the intent of your heart. He doesn't require you to do something that you have no way of doing. Okay? So I have no way of getting to confession because a truck hit me and I was killed. So I can't make it even though I had the intent to go. So God knows a person's heart. God can save whom it pleases him to save. So it's not just a simple, I got hit by a bus, so I'm going to hell. It's no, if I got hit by a bus when I was on my way to confession, I'm probably not going to hell. And then again, to just say, well, if I sin, I've been good all this time. Well, okay, you've been good all this time, but now all of a sudden you choose to reject Jesus Christ and commit this mortal sin. That's a problem. So it's not just one sin sending you to hell. It's a rejection of Jesus Christ that gets you sent to hell. Does that make sense? Does that help at all?
That is absolutely perfect, especially that second part about it, because I think his second thing he said is you'd actually mentioned going to confession while you were getting ready to go to confession, and that's when you get hit. So that's a perfect answer. I really appreciate that.
You're very welcome, Ray.
833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number, 833-288-3986. John Martignoni back visiting us on this Open Line Monday, talking about his new book, A Blue Collar Apologetics, 25 years in the making, but it's here, available for you. You can call EWTN's Religious Catalog at 800-854-6316 and get a copy of your own. Would you think is it fair to say that as this thing got rolling and people were asking you questions, that you had to go back and research to get the answers? Has anybody benefited more spiritually from the Bible Christian Society than John Martignoni?
Probably not, because it helped me learn my faith. And what I tell people, I've had people who will say, oh, well, all you deal with is doctrine and dogma. All I want to do is show people the love of Jesus Christ. I'm like, okay, well, I think you're presenting a false dichotomy here, that it's either love or it's doctrine and dogma. No, it's love and truth. You can't truly love someone if you don't give them the truth. What are the doctrines and dogmas of the Catholic Church? Well, they're the truths of the faith that have been given to us, not by this pope or that pope or a bishop here, but by Jesus Christ himself. So these are the truths of the faith. Jesus, when he's standing in front of Pilate, he says, I came to give people the truth, essentially. And that's when Pilate asked, well, what is truth? Well, I've got an answer for you, Pontius. It's the teachings of the Catholic Church is truth. And so the doctrines, dogmas of the Catholic Church, that as you learn them, you're learning truth. Well, who is truth? Jesus Christ is truth. So the more doctrines and dogmas you know, you understand, the more of the Catholic faith you learn and you know, the more of Jesus Christ you know. And so, and Jack, when you meet somebody first time, you don't go, oh, I absolutely love this person. No, how do you fall in love with someone? By getting to know them. So you get to know Jesus Christ through the teachings of the church. You fall in love with him, and then you can share him, his truth, his love, your love with other people. And so that's it. I mean, as I've learned about the teachings of the church, it's helped me to grow deeper in my faith. And, I'm still not where I want to be, but I'm a heck of a lot farther down the path than I used to be.
Okay, I can't give you 7 or 8 minutes like you gave yourself at the end of your talk, Mary and the Bible, but we have a YouTube request for your treatment of the concept of purgatory. 2 minutes, go.
All right. Well, in 2 Samuel, it talks about, the prophet Nathan comes to to David, and he says, hey, basically tells him you've sinned, you committed adultery and murder with Bathsheba and her husband. And David says, I've sinned against the Lord, I repent, essentially. Nathan says, God has put away your sin. But here's the Catholic principle on purgatory from that. There is punishment due to sin even after it was forgiven. The child that is born to you, Nathan says, shall die. Revelation 21, nothing unclean shall enter heaven, the New Jerusalem. So, Catholic principle on purgatory number 2 from Scripture. Nothing with the stain of sin, nothing unclean, gets to heaven. Hebrews 12, you've come to Mount Zion and the festal angels and to the souls of the just made perfect. Catholic principle number 3 from Scripture on purgatory. There's some process, Hebrews 12, about 22, 23, where the souls of the just are made perfect. Catholic principle number 4 from Scripture, 1 Corinthians 3, verses 11 through 15. There's some place where after you die, you can go and have your works tested, and you can suffer loss as through fire, yet still be saved. It's not heaven. You don't suffer loss through fire in heaven. It's not hell. You don't get saved once you're in hell. So there's this other place after you die where you can suffer loss as through fire, yet still be saved. Put them all together. There's punishment due to sin after sin has been forgiven. Nothing with the stain of sin gets into heaven. There's some process by which the souls of the just are made perfect. And there's some place other than heaven or hell where you can go after you die and have your works tested and you suffer loss as through fire, but you're still saved.
There you have it, and there's a larger treatment of that at the end of John's talk called Mary and the Bible, that it can be found at John's website. Give us your best 90-second spiel on the website.
BibleChristianSociety.com. BibleChristianSociety.com's got all of my e-newsletters, Apologetics for the Masses, over 400 issues now. It's all my discussions with Protestants, with evangelicals, with Baptists. I have the dialogues in there, what they said, what I said in response, and then a lot of the times the strategies. Why did I say what I said? Other newsletters, I take Catholic topics and I explain them. I take questions from people that have been asked, and I put 3 or 4 questions in the newsletter and answer them. All free. I've got 29 different talks on various apologetics, all free. You can get them on CD if you still have a CD player in your car, or you can get them MP3 downloads right there at the website, BibleChristianSociety.com.
Thanks so much for visiting with us.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
And I recommend everybody get a copy of Blue Collar Apologetics. On behalf of our host, John Martignoni, our producer, Michael McCall, call screener, Matt Gubensky, and our social media maven, Mr. Jeff Burson, I'm Jack Williams. Thanks so much for tuning in to EWTN's Open Line. Back at it again tomorrow, talking faith, family, and fellowship with Father Wade Menezes. Until we get together tomorrow, God bless.